Hello, Jay.
Hello, Phil.
Hi there.
Hi, how are you?
Okay, thanks for calling.
You're very welcome. I want to tell you that Tamar's film screened in Dallas at the famous and infamous Texas Theater, and the audience loved it.
Oh, that's great. Everybody seems to love that film.
It's a great tribute and picture of your life, and it's so interesting.
Whatever it is, Jay, I don't take responsibility. I get it from my parents. Most musical people I've ever known.
Well, I learned that in the film, and yes, that is amazing. You went on to, become a composer, and let me ask you this: before Santa Baby, what did you know about Eartha Kitt?
Nothing. Except, of course, what everybody knew, that she was the biggest new star on Broadway. Everybody knew that. Phil,
is it hard to predict what song will be a hit?
Well, not when you have the kind of recordings that I have. It wasn't hard to predict that How Little We Know would become a classic after Sinatra did it. And Moonlight Gambler, while not as well known as How Little We Know, still has lots of fans in the Western world.
The film points out also that, or maybe this was Tamar who told me this, that Otto Preminger had you on set for Liza Minnelli's film. Do you recall anything about that experience that stands out?
No, that was a rough trip. As any composer that worked for Otto Preminger will tell you, it's not easy to work when he was alive, was to work for him. Although in the end we stayed friends.
Okay.
But that was a rough trip being with him. I got a lot of threats from him that never really came true.
Oh, boy. But was your job to just make sure that Liza's singing of your composition came across the right way?
Liza never really put out a single of any of my songs. She was a disciple of a man that I brought into the music business and taught how to write songs. That was Fred Ebb.
Yeah.
He was her complete mentor, but I was his mentor. That's my connection with Liza Minnelli. I brought Fred Ebb into the music business.
Yeah. Phil, Tamar and I also talked about Cliff Richard, and congratulations on your #1 with him.
Yep, well, I never met Cliff, but I know that he knows who I am and appreciates me very much. I've heard him say that to various people.
Did you meet others who recorded your songs? Judy Garland or Frank Sinatra?
I met Frank Sinatra, and I became very, very good friends with Frankie Lane.
With Frankie Lane?
Yep. He and I became real buddies. But Sinatra knew who I was, but he wasn't very nice to me, which surprised me because I wrote one of his favorite songs.
Yes.
But I didn't take that personally at all. He was just a nervous man, and he didn't have time to exchange anything to me but a nod.
All right. After meeting Tamar and seeing the film, I was very uplifted, and I just want to say thank you for all the great tunes.
Oh, well, thanks very much, Jay.
Phil.
But in answer to your question about my stature as a musician, Jay, I was never only a songwriter. I studied music. I have 3 degrees in music, including a PhD from UCLA, and I was as much in the classical field as I was in the pop. The only thing is, I did not have any contacts in the classical world, except one or two teachers who really might have helped me if I asked, but I was more interested in pursuing something where I knew I was going to make money at, which is songwriting. But I'm as much a classical composer as I am a pop songwriter.
Yes, very good. Can you paint a picture for me of what the Brill Building was like when you were there, when you worked there, and when you worked around other songwriters?
Well, that was like a fairy tale world now when you look back, because of the restaurant called the Turf Restaurant. That restaurant had nothing but songwriters and publishers in it, and it was very hard to get started without having lunch at the Turf Restaurant in the late 40s and early 50s. That's where everybody was, and that's where I met people like Carolyn Lee and Bob Hilliard, those two great lyric writers that I was partners with for many years.
Yes.
I'm sure you're interested in knowing about my relationship with Yip Harburg.
Yes, indeed.
Of all the lyric writers, he is the one that believed the most in me and said on many occasions that if it's the last thing he did on earth, it would be to make me famous. Unfortunately, he never lived that long, but I did spend the last night of his life in my home. We were that close.
Yes. Yes. Well, God bless him. That was a very important and significant part of the film, and I'm glad you mentioned that.
Yep. He loved Tamar, and we had nicknames that rhymed. Tamar is Tip, I'm Flip, and Yip was Yip.
Tip,
so
Flip,
we were a powerful triumvirate.
Philip, I just want to kind of get a visual of working in the Brill Building. Were you at a desk with was there a piano there, or were you writing on paper?
The Brill Building in the late 40s had nothing but music publishers in it, and every floor had at least 5 publishers, several of which had more than one piano. And I played on a lot of those pianos.
Yeah.
In fact, I had an office. After Center Baby, they gave me an office in the Brill Building with a piano.
Oh. How did that feel?
Oh, that was great. Because I was able to help and bring into the business people that I believed in, like Sid Wayne, who was one of Presley's chief writers. I started him in the business. I got him his first contract, and I even bought him a suit because he couldn't afford to come to the Brill Building in a new suit. And I insisted that he get a new suit and wear a tie when he comes to the Brill Building, and I got him his first contract there.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, a lot of my function was really to help other writers. I also brought Richard Adler into the business, and he became a lot more famous than me, even though I had given him his first start.
So you helped recruit and find and bring in and even buy the wardrobe of some of your
Part of my job in life was recognizing lyric writer talent and doing something about it. In fact, I used to call myself, in an age where there were a lot of womanizers around, I called myself a lyricizer. I was not a womanizer.
Okay. Lyricizer.
Yep.
I like that.
Yeah, I spent really a good part of my life seeking out lyric writers, finding out their telephone numbers, and talking them into meeting with me. And that's how every one of my collaborations started, with me getting in touch with a lyric writer or their manager, except for one exception, and that was Yip Harburg. The way I got to him was that he went to City College in the early 1900s with my father's best friend, became a very good friend of Yip Harburg in the early part of the century. And 50 years later, his name was Nat Handler. He wrote a letter to Yip saying that I was on the same length as George Gershwin, and Yip said, if that's the case, I want to meet this young man. That's how I got to meet Yip.
And how did you feel being compared to George Gershwin?
I always was intelligent enough to know that I did not compare with George Gershwin, but no other composer ever lived in America that did. So I don't feel bad about that. He was just our great musical genius of all time.
Yes.
Although once Yip said to me, Phil, you know more music than anybody I know except for George Gershwin.
And you didn't mind that?
No, of course not. I would have been the first to say it.
So I mentioned this to Tamar, and that is I found a quote where you said in an interview, when I write music, my pen is being moved by a force outside of myself. I don't know what that force is. And
I think that every composer who was blessed with the ability to write melody, not orchestration, but pure melody, owes that to a force above him, and it comes from heaven. I never felt that I was writing melodies at all, but that I was simply a sort of a musical secretary to some source in heaven. I've always felt that it wasn't me, that it was an outside force that was writing the melodies that I wrote. Melodic writing is very, very rare. There are thousands of composers who are wonderful musicians, but only one of 1,000 knows what it is to write a pure melody that stands without harmony as a force that people would like to sing if they heard it.
Yes. Yes. They want to sing along. They're compelled to sing along.
Exactly. That's what real melody writing is. It compels you. And the greatest thrill I've ever had was when I got on a bus on Fifth Avenue in New York in the spring of 1956, and the bus driver was whistling The Moonlight Gambler.
Yeah, I remember that from the film. Yeah, that must have been a great feeling. Tamar
picked out a lot of things of my life that I really don't want to see myself. I get too emotional. I don't want to go through that.
Yeah.
However, I know that she is a supremely gifted producer, and I hope she goes on to produce other projects.
Yes. But you say from heaven, and I think when people sing along to a beautiful melody, you're also connecting the audience to heaven.
Well, in my, I always remember what Mozart said in a letter. He said, people are always astounded at the gift of what you write. And his answer was, I only write what I hear in my head. And that really answers your question. Mozart is not responsible for the fact that he was probably the greatest musical genius that ever lived. That came from above.
Yeah.
He was not responsible for it. And the only problem is that whatever it was from above did not protect him from dying at such an early age. One of the youngest geniuses was Mozart, who died, I think, at 35.
Philip, did it help, though, when Joan Javits or any lyricist would bring you a few lyrics first, a few words, a few lyrics first?
I wrote most of the songs of mine that became successful. The lyric came first. I just had that particular ability that when a lyric writer showed me even one line, that it would immediately trigger in my mind a melody. Yeah. That's how Little We Know happened. That's how Moonlight Gambler happened. That's how Santa Baby happened. I did not write the melody first. I wrote the melody in response to a title.
Right. Something inspired you from those maybe very few or simple lyrics.
I can never define why some lyric writers did nothing to inspire me, and others, all they have to do is open their mouth, and I would hear music. That's what happened with Bob Hilliard. That's what happened with Carolyn Lee.
I think that is a documentary in the making right there, is this creative process for a composer like yourself, that you connect with certain people when they just open their mouth, and then you feel it.
Hear music.
It flows out of your fingers.
Yep. Yeah, that's right. So that they were always very surprised when I didn't sit down at the piano, but I sat in an armchair and said, "Let's go." And that's how my hits were written. Except for the next time where Buddy Kaye gave me the title one Saturday morning with a building. There was nobody there that morning, and I created the next time from Buddy Kaye's title. I wrote the whole melody. All I needed was those words, the next time. And by the way, we did write it knowing that it was going to be submitted to Cliff Richard.
Okay. And, he's on tour right now in Australia. He's probably singing your song right now.
Well, I know that it was one of his favorites.
Yes. Yes. And it became a number one, and that must have been a great feeling. Did Cliff
It became number one in more than one country, in several countries. Unfortunately, it never made the charts in the United States. We were too much into rock in 1963. So that was such a gentle song that it could not compete with Presley, the Beatles, and artists like that.
Yeah.
However, outside of the United States, the next time was a hit almost everywhere.
Yeah. And speaking of musical changes and the industry changes, the film touches on electronics and has some amazing pictures of you in front of what appears to be multi-synthesizers and all kinds of chords and cables, and you embraced electronic music, didn't you?
Oh, yeah, I became a teacher. I wrote a book on it. My book was pretty popular. Switch-on synthesizer. It was used by keyboard players around the world.
Okay, that is actually the cover of the book is in the film. Okay, I got you. You're right. And so, are you? Is that something that you might have in your house? Is some electronic keyboards, or is this something that still fascinates you?
I really it was something very formidable to me, and I almost quit my course at UCLA in electronic music, except that the teacher was very friendly to me, and he talked me into staying with his class, and the result was that I became a teacher at the UCLA Extension in electronic music. I started out the whole class, I called it electronic music and the synthesizer.
Yeah. Now,
but then I got out of that when I came back to just being a songwriter. I sort of got out of the electronic field. Also, I have to confess that when it became digital, that is, when computers took over the electronic music field, that I could not keep up with it. I don't have that kind of a mind. So that's another reason that I got out of electronic music. I could not keep up with the computers.
So at UCLA, this must have been in the in the late 70s. You were teaching.
I got my PhD in 73, so that happened a bit before 73. Probably the two of the happiest years of my life were spent in 1971 and 2 at UCLA. I practically lived on the campus.
Yeah.
Where I was getting my PhD.
When I think about the timing of this, there was a lot of amazing synthesizer, aggressive bands, synth music coming out in the early and mid 70s. And maybe you directly or indirectly had an influence on that movement, or certain musicians, certainly.
I'm not sure whether I had much of an influence, but I do know that several of my students are making a lot of money now writing electronic music for TV. They're always writing me letters thanking me.
Really?
Yeah.
That's
for getting them in. I even used to lend out my synthesizers to young guys that wanted to get into writing for TV and motion pictures. You had to do it starting in the mid-60s. You simply had to know your stuff in electronic music to compete.
How did you really feel when all of a sudden you saw the power of the Beatles?
I really didn't like much of what the Beatles were doing. One or two songs had some emotion in them, but I found it a world that left me cold, the world of the Beatles. And of course, I listened, as everybody had to, in the 60s, to what they were doing. It did not move me, as other writers did.
Yeah. Do you think that music written in the 40s and 50s was more emotional?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I was a very big fan of what was happening in the 60s, and I wrote a lot of songs, I believe, that compared with what Burt Bacharach was doing.
Yeah.
In the 60s.
Yeah.
I didn't have the kind of luck he had, and I didn't have the looks either. He was just an enchanting man, and great stars like Marlene Dietrich loved him so much that on almost any level he would have been a star himself. I was never a star. Well, I was always behind the scenes.
What was that your preference? because a lot of people think of you as a star, Philip.
Well, lately I've been very lucky in getting fans all over the world. I've been very lucky, but that's only happened since Tamar, my daughter, became my manager. She has put me, made millions of fans for me all over the world. I can tell that from my ASCAP statements.
Philip, that is very funny and very enlightening. I like that. All my best to you and to Tamar, and I really appreciate this talk. And if it's all right with you, I'll edit it together, and we will have this on our radio station. And I just want to say thank you and appreciate your time chatting with me today about all of this.
You're very welcome, Jay. It was great talking to you.
And I really enjoyed meeting.
And Tamar, and of course, enjoyed very much meeting you. That's why she arranged this talk.
Yes, indeed. And love to you both. I hope that we'll circle around and talk again soon.
Thanks, Jay.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Jay. All right. Thank you, Philip.
Thank you, Jay.
Thank you, Tamar.
Bye.